going on, guys? I got Chris Kline here on the line from Bitcoin IRA.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Guys, this interview is highly anticipated. We've been trying to coordinate over the holidays to get you this juicy information on the Bitcoin ETF and some more information on Bitcoin IRA for anyone who doesn't know. Guys, stay tuned for this interview. It's definitely going to be one for the books. Chris, my man, how are you doing today?
Wonderful, Professor. I'm thrilled to be here with some juicy material, talk about ETFs, and happy holidays to you, sir.
Happy holidays to you as well. Now, Chris, I want you to tell me, before we jump into a lot of these questions here, tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your project, Bitcoin IRA, for anyone who is unfamiliar.
So, Chris Kline, Colorado native. I now live in the suburbs of Los Angeles, out here in sunny California, at least sunny today. I am Aries Pisces cusp. Not a huge fan of long walks on the beach, but I'm absolutely passionate about anything that has to do with crypto. And Bitcoin IRA, our project and company that's been in place since 2016, we're on a mission to help Americans retire. There's a big gap in retirement, whether it's under saving or catching up, and alternatives are a key component to future success as a diversified portfolio. And Bitcoin came across our desk back in 2016 of, could this be done? And we've proven it now with, I think, over 170,000 plus users and a few $1 billion of assets in IRAs in crypto today.
Wow, I'm so glad to hear that you guys have been in the game for so long, man. That is definitely something that I look for whenever I review projects and suggest them to people as well. So, I mean, you guys are definitely not newbies to crypto or Bitcoin or the blockchain in general. So I'm very happy to hear that. Let's jump into some of the questions regarding the ETF here, because I know everyone is absolutely raving about this. And we've seen quite an uptick in some of the cryptocurrency values within the last few days. I don't know if you've been following the charts, but specifically Matic has had quite the leap, jumping over $1 there again. And we also saw Ethereum with a little bit of an uptick as well. I think they had like a 10% increase on the last 24-hour, 48-hour. So definitely glad to see that. And of course, the catalyst around that, Chris, is going to be the Bitcoin ETF as well as the halving that's going to be happening in April. So first off, let's talk the ETF here. So give us a little bit of a brief overview of the Bitcoin ETF.
Let's take one step back and just understand what an ETF is.
Sure, yes.
Exchange traded fund. It's designed for folks to invest in things that weren't easy to just invest in directly. You saw it with emerging markets in the 90s, universal currencies actually over time in baskets and SDRs, and gold and silver also have their own ETFs. What this new evolution of an ETF, it's important to remember there's two types, there's future and spot. Future ETFs are derived off of a price of that asset at a future time with a date and a contract expiration. Well, crypto's already pretty volatile, and futures contracts actually came out in 2017. I was on I can't remember CNBC or one of the other ones when it came out. I had this long hippie hair. It was so many years ago, and the futures markets came out. Now they didn't do great because we'd be talking about them a lot more over these last few years. Volatility made it very difficult. Plus, we went through two winners since then. Right. The spot ETF, which is different in that it is actually investing in the underlying asset, and it's based upon the price today in this moment in time, is much different and a little bit more favorable for folks. Now there's about 9 or so, I think maybe more now, approvals pending for groups like BlackRock and others. And what this is going to do is it's going to really be a catalyst for mainstream adoption into this next new year. You've got people that can, with a click of a mouse, add this to a piece of their Fidelity portfolio or other places. Now, it may not be available everywhere and to everyone. We learned that with other Bitcoin assets in the past. But it will definitely open up the floodgates, and behind it is a lot of institutional money that's moving in right now, or has been kind of moving in for the last 6 to 8 months. And that's what's been driving that price upwards as of late.
How soon do you think that a Bitcoin spot ETF is likely to be approved at this point in time? I mean, given the recent news and everything that's happening, what do you think?
A lot of folks are thinking somewhere around mid-January, 15th to the 20th, somewhere in there. And that would be about 3 months before the halving event takes place. And I think it's important you brought that up. There's not a vacuum here. This isn't just the ETF. This is markets are hot, institutions are running in, Bitcoin ETF, spot ETF, and the Mac Daddy of them all, in my opinion. What makes me passionate about crypto, especially Bitcoin, is this halving event, this anti-inflationary tool that basically is the exact opposite of the money we have today, where creators of the asset are punished for creating more, diminishing rates of return, versus basically, why do we print money? So people can get reelected. That's usually how it works. So they're rewarded for making more money in the United States and other currencies today. So it's that conflict and that cut down and right at supply and demand. It's a real perfect storm. It's a nice cyclone for a lot of interesting activity in crypto over the next 6 months.
What do you think is likely to happen when this Bitcoin ETF gets approved? I mean, are we just gonna go haywire with the prices, or what? Like, what do you think's gonna happen, Chris? I want your expert opinion on that.
I'm not gonna be the Jim Cramer that slams on the button and goes, "It's going to the moon," and everybody says I'm an idiot 2 weeks from now. It's odd. It's very fun. I've been through a lot of these events. I went through the first halving event. I went through the first hard fork event. I've been through drops on things like XRP, etc. Like, there's these dynamics happen, and usually one of two things happens: nothing happens, or something bad happens. It's very odd that immediately there's an uptick, right? So it may be kind of boring right away. It's like, yay, it came out, and the media is gonna love to say Bitcoin spot ETF comes in and crypto drops. You know, they love that headline. They love those things. So anticipate some of that. It actually takes about 6 months after a halving event for the real fire to heat up, if you look at it historically.
Exactly.
So I would say that we're probably not going to see a lot of, I mean, we're already very busy. I know I'm in the crypto business. So onboarding of new accounts, new folks walking into this space, keyword searches, everything is up. Everything is up right now. So it's already headed there. When will we see mania? I don't think it'll be until maybe Q2, Q3 of this year.
Chris, nobody has a crystal ball, right? So experience, exactly. And I mean, many of the analysts, man, they go off of, as you said, the previous price patterns, what's happened in the past. The last halving that we had, again, it was madness in 2020. But as you said, we didn't see that madness till about 6 months after the halving. And I remember that very clearly, right? I mean, it was crazy in terms of the amount of volume of projects that we had on the channel, new blockchain projects in general that were coming out, right?
And don't forget, the stimulus checks started to hit.
Yes, that as well. Yes, it was right around the COVID time, right? So what do you think is the key to taking advantage of an opportunity like this, right? So I know a lot of people are looking back, Chris, and they're kicking themselves saying, wow, I could have been a millionaire, or I could have done so much better for myself, or I could have retired earlier if I had taken that chance in the previous cycle that we had, in the previous halving cycle, in the previous BTC ETF speculation that we had before. So now that we kind of know that this is going to be happening, what is a key to taking the advantage in the opportunity in this? What do you think, Chris?
3 words: dollar cost averaging. So nobody's a genius. There's nobody. Even if you got guys out there, the Instagram guys that you see that'll flash that they bought Bitcoin at these, they probably dollar cost average. Smart investors do it with everything. If you want to buy $10,000 of Bitcoin, you don't buy it all today. You buy it in increments across the time period. You set to the schedule, because that takes emotion out of the investing. That's the most important piece. So dollar cost averaging is the biggest thing, and getting off zero. So if you haven't done it already, which a lot of people have, get yourself off zero, get some crypto exposure, learn how it works. Go to Coinbase or one of the basic exchanges. I don't have a favorite other than my own, but I'm only retirement. So, but if you're just getting a little bit of exposure, just want to learn what a wallet is and how an exchange works and what a transaction feels like, it's very easy to go do those things today at safe places. And then if and when the ETF comes out, you can always add some shares of that proxy certificate into your account as well. That's a kind of a different type of Bitcoin. We'll get into that a little bit later. And then I think the other thing for most folks, the people that I've really won with crypto that I've worked with, they use their retirement plans. Because if you say have to play these markets and you got in back when Bitcoin was $1 and you sold it 1,000 and then got back, like did your buys and sells, let's give ourselves perfect hindsight. With all those perfectly, you're gonna have a lot of capital gains implications, short and long term. And every one of those has a tax bill that has to be paid. Now, if you're in an IRA setting, all of that doesn't exist. You only have taxes when you take the money out when you get older.
Right.
It's at your ordinary income rate. So huge savings potential if you're a long-term believer in crypto and you haven't put some of it in a retirement plan. That doesn't mean your whole retirement's in Bitcoin. You can start with a contribution for this year or next year, which caps, I think now this would be around $6,000, $7,000 depending on your age. If you got an old 401k that you haven't done anything with, you can roll a piece of that over. Or if you're already sitting in an IRA somewhere at Fidelity or Charles Schwab, you can take a partial amount of that. So it's not an all or nothing. And then once you're in, use whatever platform you're using. Make sure you dollar cost average your way in. Don't jump in with both feet as most people do, like it just happens. I've watched it time and time again, and those that just incrementally set to schedule, they have much more success.
Key takeaway for the audience here, guys, DCA. You heard Chris, DCA, do not forget DCA. Now, Chris, my next question, you've kind of answered it a little bit here, but assuming a person wants to invest now, what else is for them to keep in mind? Is there anything besides what you've already mentioned to add to that?
I would say we're about to have a crazy year, and every time I saw it in 17 and 21, when it gets crazy, fraud really gets bad. So, to protect yourself, use reputable brands, do homework on them, look them up, make sure that they have reputable items out there. We're actually a regulated entity with the Nevada FID as a trust company, and we're vertically integrated into that. So there's regular audits and gap accounting and those things. The rug pulls and the things we saw in 21 or 22 with not just FTX, but Celsius, Voyager, etc. These were all functions of not just bad actors. There were bad actors, and then there were just bad actors relying on bad actors, where there was this contagion effect that happens. So keep it simple. That's a big thing when it gets fraudulent and those things start to run up. Just getting the basic coins. We all want to be fancy and find that one that's going to moon, right? What's the one that's going to give me 10,000x? It's a moonshot. You can buy a little bit of everything and you'll make a little bit, but a lot of times these projects that come out, you got to be very wary and be very due diligent about what you're looking at.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be my big thing, is just be cautious. And then security is the other thing, so personal security. So if you're not using 2FA, then the professor didn't do a good job. if you're not using, I use YubiKeys personally for everything, even my cell phone. It's an NFC design device that allows me, I don't put any of my banking stuff on my cell phones, none of my cryptos on my devices.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I use a static IP address when I do any transactions with my. Now I'm pretty neurotic and a little bit crazy because I've heard all the horror stories out there.
Right.
But if you're not using those things, even just for Gmail, to have the 2FA that's not your cell phone, because an SMS swap is the easiest thing, and every hacker in the world can do it these days.
Right.
So all that, like, make sure you're secure and make sure the project you're looking at is secure, reputable, or has a reputation. Because when we get into these places, those are the parts that I hate to hear, is when, man, I went and bought this coin, or I went here and this is what happened to me, when there was huge gains to be made, right? And that was just we didn't plan accordingly kind of thing.
Definitely DCA, security, and what was the last one there?
Personal security, DCA, and reputation of the project.
Reputation of the product.
Makes sense too. Some of these coins that come out, you're like, well, what utility does that even have?
Right.
It's not going to go to $100 a coin because it would be obsolete. Remember, technology is all about efficiency and savings. I mean, it's what's supposed to be, and we're getting there as a society for sure. But definitely watch some of the cool stuff I've seen out there, and nothing that I would name like buy coin, but there's been this convergence of AI and crypto, because they are complementary to each other. The concept of running these AI systems and using some kind of reward currency or blockchain of some sort to manage and encompass them.
Right.
That should be the next evolution of technology at some point, and that could take 2 or 3 years. I mean, we're just learning all the weaknesses of ChatGPT at this point, right? Most folks are.
I would definitely agree with you on that last point there, Chris. Do your own research. Absolutely, that is the number one key, is what I preach. And for everyone else watching, what Chris was saying about the security aspect, something that I always recommend in all my videos, guys, is an external wallet. Okay, keep a cold wallet like Ledger, something like that on deck. And as Chris says, try to avoid the technology with the smartphones. I mean, a lot of it's great, but the hackers do have access to that, and they're able to circumvent ways to get around and get into your crypto. So just be very careful, guys. Next question that I have for you, Chris. So let's say, someone makes a lot of money here with their investment and they have capital gains taxes implication with that. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? How should they manage that? How should they go about handling that?
So there are really good groups out there now that allow, and a lot of companies, good CPAs, have included crypto as a piece of their product offering. So if you've got A, lot of gains, or B, a lot of crypto activity, you're going to want to keep good records. That's the most important part. Now, most exchanges, you should be able to do exports and get all of your transactions, but your accountant or whoever's putting together your end is going to be very thankful if you've got good documentation reporting of what you've done. Now, if you are thinking longer term about crypto, you can, as I mentioned earlier, bypass that capital gains implication via using tools like retirements. They're designed just like for any other asset, the Bitcoin IRA. You can put dollars in it from a contribution, a rollover, a transfer, and you can trade for the next 5-10 years and buy and sell, and all of that is in a tax sheltered umbrella. And what you have to worry about is when you get older and you start taking out those distributions, you'll take them at your ordinary income tax levels. And if you happen to do a Roth, which there's some eligibility components to a Roth, and everybody's position is different, so you should ask your advisor about it. But Roth is beautiful because you don't get the benefit of putting it in your retirement where your tax money goes down, but you do get the benefit of no taxes when you get to the age of distribution. So now you're going to take that money out tax-free, and you can turn $5,000 into $5 million, and you'll be pulling that out for those golden years, so to speak, or as we might learn to call them, the Bitcoin years.
I like that. Golden years, Bitcoin years. I like that.
It's always a competition between those tangible, real assets that aren't paper currency.
That's very correct. And as they say, Bitcoin is the digital gold nowadays, right? So very fitting. Very fitting. Okay, good. So the next question that I have for you. So it sounds like Bitcoin IRA is a very good place for people to store some of their funds and avoid the capital gains from the taxes, right? For their retirement and that kind of thing. So is this something that you guys, when you started Bitcoin IRA, was this the original idea of it? Was this the original project? Or was this something you guys kind of morphed into as time went by?
Morphed into as time went by. We got heavily involved in self-directed IRAs about 15 years ago. But between that and the 7 years since for crypto, we were mastering real estate, LLCs, private equity. There's this whole basket of asset classes that you can invest in that you can't find at a JP Morgan or a Fidelity or a Morgan Stanley. Just they don't exist.
Right.
They have stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and sometimes ETFs. And so when we were getting really good at just understanding the problem with the industry was that it was somewhat archaic. It was more difficult to manage. It wasn't as user-friendly, so to speak. It's very easy to open up a Fidelity account, but to go to some of these trust companies, they were very not big brands, and they also didn't have the technology to onboard smoothly and efficiently. So we saw an opportunity there to just get better at that. We said, you know what, if we could just make onboarding easier here, folks would have more access to these things. And then once we got layers into layers of that, somebody came across our desk and was like, hey, crypto would be really cool in this. And that was 2015. And I'll be honest, I didn't know much about Bitcoin at the time. So did my research, got in under the hood, started learning about wallets and understanding how are we going to solve the challenge of a secure custody model to make this possible. And that's what we morphed into. And since then, we launched the first one, and it was the former director of the United States Mint was actually our first client.
Oh, wow.
Bought $5,000 worth of Bitcoin in June of 2016. It was June 5th, I believe. I have it somewhere on a calendar.
Nice.
The pictures behind me are from when we made Forbes and Wall Street Journal for the moment. So
right.
That was a big day, but nobody cared really for like 6 months. Nobody cared. It was like, oh, this is cool. And then it started to grow from there. And we realized that there is a huge opportunity here, but there's a huge responsibility here. Keeping billions of dollars of cryptocurrency safe is huge. So we had to build an exclusive partnership with our friends at BitGo, which is a multi-signature, geographic, military grade. I could go down the layers of it. They were the first to do it right, and they kept doing it better and better and better ever since. And they were the first to gain an insurance model, all these things, because they have guys sitting in rooms thinking of things that can go wrong. From Apollo 13, you're NASA for Christ's sake. Don't you have people sitting around thinking these things up? Or was that Armageddon? That was Armageddon. Good 90s classic movie, though.
Definitely.
So we knew that. And then once we realized, okay, to be able to really bring this full ecosystem, really help Americans retire, we got to integrate a trust solution to this. And so we partnered with actually an amazing woman, Teresa Fetti, that built and sold one of the largest trust companies in the industry before she was like 40. We took her out of retirement, and she came and joined us, and just we call her the godfather of the trust industry, and worked with us to build a approved solution regulated by Nevada that makes it so that this is long-term, secure, and meant for scale. And that's where we're headed next. We're really excited for what's going to come in 24. With or without market conditions, we knew we were going to dominate 24 as a business. With Bitcoin ETF and Halving, we can't wait. And I can't wait to invite thousands and thousands of more folks into the Bitcoin IRA ecosystem. Because once you get through crypto, because you're going to make gains, right? That's the people's intent of the investing. We have a lot of folks from 17 and 18 and 21 that made gains, put cash back on the sidelines, and went and bought some real estate property, invested in a second, not a home for themselves, obviously, but flips. We had a guy that did tractor leases. So he would lease John Deere tractors out to farmers in his area, but the tractor was owned by the retirement plan, so that all that was a tax-free situation.
Okay.
People built businesses or invested in other private equity with those things, and a lot have actually settled into gold as, hey, you know what? I'm just going to keep these winnings safe, because gold is one of those very boring assets that just, you know, it's going to be there, it's going to be worth it's supposed to be worth, and keep its store value over time. So it's not just a crypto play, it's a long-term alternative play. We're really trying to bring that future of alternative retirement into play. So yeah, that's how we morphed. That was our evolution. Very exciting.
Quite the project, Chris. I gotta say, it's been absolutely amazing interviewing you today, asking you these questions, just picking your brain about it, and seeing how the ETF does relate to Bitcoin IRA as well. It sounds like your platform, Bitcoin IRA, in addition to everything you've said, there's a lot of huge capital gains taxes savings that are to be had as well for Americans and people across the world. So I want to say kudos to you guys for having such a great project and being so innovative with it, staying with the time, making sure that it's going to be technologically progressive for everyone as time goes by. So this is great, Chris. I really do appreciate that. That's all the questions that I do have for you today, and I'm sure everyone's going to be very, very excited about your project. Was there anything else you wanted to leave off on, just for anyone to kind of take away from the project?
Well, if you're interested, Professor, I'll drop you a link that you can share in the comments below with everybody so they can check us out. One of the cool things is I'm not the only human that works there. We have a whole team of guys that have been with me, some of them 7-8 years, that have been helping onboard folks into this world, answer the questions, evaluate what works. You know, some 401ks can come in, some can't. It just depends on eligibility and if you work there. We're just here to be a resource, and we love to talk crypto, just like you do, Professor. So definitely check us out. You'll get a phone call from a real human being, and you can explore our knowledge center and all those great things. But I think you would be remiss to say, if you don't get off zero, you're going to be kicking yourself this time next year, because this is going to be a landmark year for cryptocurrency.
Absolutely, Chris. I definitely agree with you on that. And I would love to put that link in the description. So definitely send that off to me. Guys, for everyone who's watching, check out that link in the description. If you have questions about Bitcoin IRA, that's the place to go. And they're definitely going to get you all sorted out there. So thank you so much, Chris. I really do appreciate your time again. I hope that we could reconvene in the future and maybe talk about some future updates of the project, and maybe even do a little meetup at some point. Again, thank you so much.
Absolutely. I see you travel around. So next time you're in the LA or Vegas areas, you hit me up and let's get together. We can do an on-site interview, and let's touch base maybe in April after Halving, when it'll be so boring and everybody will say, why has nobody cared that it happened?
Absolutely, Chris. I think that's a great idea. We should definitely do that, and let's stay in touch.
All right, thanks, Professor.
Thank you so much, man. Take care. Really hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button if you're interested in seeing some more crypto reviews and exclusive international blockchain events. We are the channel for that, guys, as you know. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.